good morning, everyone. What an inspiring session it's been so far. I loved listening to Sumati and her discussion with Archana. I mean, what an inspiration, Sumati. It's not easy to handle a family and take care of your profession, and also making sure that your health, you're keeping your health as a priority, right? We keep hearing this, right? A sudden heart attack and things like that. And a lot of times, sometimes we tend to think, is it happening more now? Maybe yes, right? We don't have enough statistics, but this is exactly what was a turning point for me. I was in my, I think my first job, I'm talking about more than 20 years back, 23, 24 years back. And I was a HR person and I was working closely with this guy who was the CEO of my company, just 42 years old, inspiring marathoner. In fact, he was ranked as one of India's most promising young CEOs, of the tier, and thin guy, marathoner, right? So not the marathoner like what we talked about, 5 kilometer marathon. Marathons are 42 kilometers, right? And so this guy used to run a full marathon, and you know what? Just one day, he just passed away. He just collapsed, and no more. And that was a big shocker for me. And here was somebody whom I was looking up to as an inspiration, and he's no more. That was my turning point to say, you know what, if I'm going to be an effective HR person, if I don't understand health, how can I really help my colleagues? And that was my turning point. And thank God I have my wife, who is a qualified nutritionist, and she helped me decode a lot of stuff. And that is what was my inspiration and my start of my journey. And of course, over the last 20 years, it's been a mix of formal and informal education that's got me where I am today. But one of the biggest roles that has got me here is this community. You're part of. And it's so good because when you have the right environment, you're inspired every single day to do something else. So what we'll do is I'm going to. Yes, I'm going to use a presentation just to make sure that we get the best out of it. Yeah. So hope you're able to see my presentation. So decoding heart attacks, right? Let's start with the basics. The first basic I want to tell you is I want to tell you that today it's a Sunday, that a lot of people are probably just waking up. They're still in the bed. They're just thinking, how can I spend my day? Most people, for them, the weekend is actually a weekend, WEAK, right? The weekend is a weekend because they let go of their, commitments. They say, okay, let me have junk food today. Let me have an extra beer today. I mean, that's where people talk. But you sitting here made a different choice. You said, no, my health is important. I'm going to make a choice. I will invest this time into listening from somebody about health. And if you are proud of yourself, can you go to the chat and type 1, right? If you're, here and you're proud of yourself that you made a choice to take care of your health, I want to see 1 on the chat. Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm so thrilled to see so many of you proud of yourself. I think that's a first step here, right? But here, I'm going to ask you a quiz. Okay, since we are talking about hearts, so tell me this. Our heart is it a muscle, tissue, or gland? Can you type A, B, or C quickly? Yeah? Oh, yes. Okay, good. I can see a lot of you getting it right. That's really nice. So our our heart is a muscle, right? Now, I want to ask you this, right? In fact, that's part of my second question as well, right? Now, how many times does your heart beat in a day? Is it 1,000 times? Is it 10,000 times? Or do you think it is 1 lakh times a day? What do you think? And as you're doing, I want you to do this, right? Hope you're also able to see my video. I want you to just do this, right? I just want you to do like a bicep curl and do this, right? And if you can do that, empty-handed, right? Empty-handed 50 times, you'll be surprised. So when you're writing a number here, A, B, or C, just count. Your heart is going unstoppable for so many years. And I want to tell you this: your heart beats 1 lakh times a day, and it's a muscle. And you and me cannot even do this, for 50 times empty-handed. Do you realize that is a special muscle? Yeah, it is a special muscle. And when you do this for 100 times every day, your muscle grows. Imagine if your heart is pumping every day and it grows, right? It doesn't grow, right? It's a special kind of a muscle and it needs a special kind of treatment. And so the basics is, our muscles need oxygen, and which means our heart also needs oxygen. And this oxygen is supplied by the blood. So blood carries oxygen to our heart. I know it sounds like a science class, but be with me. And what is a heart attack? And heart attack is when the oxygen supply is cut. Yeah. So I want you to remember this. So, and heart attack is a simple time, event when the oxygen supply is getting cut. Why, what, how can we prevent? Is there something that we can do? We'll see now. But before that, I have this interesting thing, right? Because, how many of you took a blood report recently? If you did a complete blood test in the last 6 months, within the last 6 months, can you type one? Yeah. And type one on the chat. Yeah, I can see a few people having done it. That's really nice. Okay, see, what do we do, right? How do we do it? We look at it and we look at, okay, what are the things that are in bold, right? So that is how we decide. Oh, it's bold. Oh, I need to watch it. And we just look at the numbers. Okay, it is bold. Now we go to the left, right? And then we say, oh man, it is something that I understand. See, for example, let's say you see 201 and you go here and you say on cholesterol and you say cholesterol, I say, I understand. I have to bring down my cholesterol. Now, if you go there and you say MCHC, now you don't understand what so you just ignore, right? Lymphocytes, basophils, you just ignore because you do not understand or nobody told you that it's, threatening. But the way I want you to start looking at your health reports is slightly different, right? Imagine a child, right? A good child would probably be scoring about 80 in her exams. And, let's say an average student would probably score about 60 and a poor student scores about 30, 35, right? Now, when a good student starts scoring 60, should you be concerned? Absolutely, right? That is the time to ask a question, right? Not when it reaches 35, right? Because 35 is the day where the professor was a little happy and they put that extra 2 marks, right? And you're 35, right? But when you're stopping at 35, asking those questions, you have a chance to get it back, the child's score to 80, right? And that's exactly how it is. So when I'll keep to the same example. Let's say this cholesterol, total cholesterol, we're talking about, 201, people react. 198, you say, hey, no problem, right? I want you to understand. Your body does not understand. It's not a digital meter, right? There's no alarm signal at 201. Your body does not understand the difference between 198 and 201, right? It's an analogous one. So, I would, if I were in your position, I will start looking at my reports by the time it crosses 180 itself and say, hey, can I bring it below? And that's exactly how you want to look at all parameters, not just cholesterol that I talked about here. So when it comes to cardiac health, right, there are 6 villains, right, that you should be aware of, and you can see a few names here. And if you're hearing something for the first time, if you're hearing any of this for the first time, can you type that? Can you quickly type? Or you're not familiar? You might have heard about it, but it's not familiar, right? Blood pressure, I'm sure you're very familiar with. But if you have not heard it earlier or you're not familiar, can you start typing that? Okay. Yeah, I can see a lot of people, I know, the word itself is new, so you're going to, probably make some spelling mistakes, so don't worry about it. The C-reactive protein, you might have also seen it as CRP or HSCRP, and, it's homocysteine, that's how it's pronounced, it's an amino acid. So these are probably some of the new, and some of you are wondering, there are only 5 Iniyan, you're talking about 6. Did Iniyan count wrong? I don't know. Let's see what it is, right? So now I'm going to focus on the CRP and homocysteine because that is where a lot of people ignore. And I'm going to, help you stay focused on those 2 things. Now, what is CRP? CRP is actually produced by your liver, right? Now, some of you are wondering, where is my liver, right? Can some of you touch and see where is your liver, right? So don't worry. Liver is your, largest internal organ. It's just, I call it the CEO of your body. It is probably is a chemical factory that balances, a whole lot of things in your body, actually controls almost about 400 different functions, right? And so, one of that is it creates, produces this reactive protein. And a high level of CRP indicates a high inflammation in your body, right? That's how you want to take it. So, for example, till 0 to 1 milligram per liter is actually good, you're healthy, right? Till about 3 you're okay, but above 3 you really got to start working on it, right? Because inflammation, see, in your arteries can result in a heart attack. What is an inflammation? A bulge, right? And inflammation in your arteries can result in a heart attack, and that's why this is a very important parameter that you need to focus on. The next parameter that I want to talk about is the other, word which, was a little tough for some of you. It's homocysteine, right? Now, a high level of homocysteine, in fact, homocysteine is just an amino acid, right? And so, but what does it do? If it is high, then what happens is it can actually damage the lining of the arteries. It becomes weaker. Your arteries are the pipes or veins or which carry the blood, right? I mean, they become weaker. And the second one is blood clots can happen far more easily than usual, right? And that is where, and when a blood clot travels to a place in an artery where it blocks the blood flow, it can, depending on the place, let's say it's a brain, then it's a stroke, then or in a heart, it can cause a heart attack. And that's where, homocysteine is a very big, factor that you need to take care. Actually, the solution is very simple, right? You need, vitamin B, and folic acid. If you have that, your homocysteine can actually be brought into, under the range. But there are a few other factors. We'll talk about it as well. But remember these two, names, HSCRP and your homocysteine. Now, we come to the sixth villain. Actually, this villain is a very friendly villain. Yeah, you have the good cop and the bad cop, like that, right? So it's your friendly villain. Some of you are wondering, what's so different? By the way, just in case you missed it, it's not a pregnant lady. It's a lady standing behind her husband who has a paunch, right? I hope you noticed that. So it's your friendly paunch who's actually a big factor towards a heart attack, right? In fact, how many of you tried to, if you'd like to lose belly fat, can you type 1? If you'd like to lose belly fat, can you type 1? And if you've tried earlier, but you realize that your belly fat is stubborn, right? You're saying, oh, you know what? I have a stubborn belly fat. Can you type 2? Yeah, wonderful, right? I appreciate people being honest. Don't worry, all of us have been there, right? I really appreciate you being honest. And that's awesome, right? Now, this is a factor that you can measure easily, right? Your hip to waist to hip ratio, right? If it is higher than 0.95, then you fall under the high risk category, right? Now, the reason for this, in fact, you can have a simple a body composition analyzer at home. It costs you about 2,000-3,000 rupees. It's available on Amazon, and it can help you, track, your visceral fat, how much of muscle versus fat percentage is there. Because a lot of times when we start saying, I want to lose fat, do you know what we do? We just lose muscle and fat. We don't realize what we are measuring, what we're losing if you just measure your weight. But when hey, what you need to lose, it is a visceral fat that you need to lose. There is 2 kinds of things, right? What you see here, all the loose fat here is the cutaneous fat, subcutaneous fat. And then the visceral fat is the one that's inside. The yellow one that you can see in the image, that is a visceral fat. You cannot burn the visceral fat by exercises. I want you to know that, right? So what will it help to lose?
70% is what you eat and 30% is what you do in the gym.
Right? But you know what? We focus so much on the gym and activities and running and everything else. And ideally, the picture, should actually be like this, right? Entertainment, little bit of money, looks a little more, but health is a lot. But what happens, right? In fact, I was just putting this presentation together and I remember this. So this, wife comes to the husband and says, hey, you know what? do you, how often do you drink beer? And the husband says, usually 3, 4 times a week. And so do you know how much you spend every time you drink? He says about 1,000 rupees. And how long you've been drinking, dear? And he says, now for about 20 years, I think. And do you realize that if you did not drink and you just save that money, you'd actually have a Mercedes Benz by now, a brand new one? The husband looks at her and says, do you drink beer? Wife says, no. He says, where is your Merc? Right? Where is your Mercedes Benz? Because all the time we have, especially people when we don't take care of health, we have all excuses, we have all the quips coming, and we want to keep sure that our health, we talk about health, but our investments into health, is very little or compromised. I'm going to ask a very personal question, and I want an answer from you for us to take it forward. How many of you feel older than your actual age? Can you type 1? If you feel older than your actual age, can you type 1? I truly appreciate the courage if you have, and typing a 1, because it takes guts to say that, right? I mean, we have mood swings, depression, headaches, frequent cough and cold. We are overweight, trying to lose weight, hormonal imbalances, poor gut health. I mean, cholesterol, skin issues, so many different things, right? Have you ever thought, how is that one person is having so many problems? In fact, I was just talking to 2 clients yesterday, and this happens every single day, right? One is a lady who is 63, and I'm a healthcare professional, so I'm allowed to ask age. Okay, by the way, for women. So I asked her age, and she said 63. And you know what she said? Iniyan, isn't it normal that these problems will come with age? I on the later I was talking to a couple. They are younger than me, right? And the guy is like 48, and the lady is like 46 or something like that. And then I'm asking them, and do you know what the guy said? Oh, Iniyan, all these things happen with age, right? I want to tell you something here, right? What is really old age? See, birth till about 20 years, your body is still growing. It is still not stopped growth. I hope you understand that, right? Effectively, you're still a child, when it comes to, your body, right? And health. So that's your growth phase. Between 20 till about 40, 45, you're still a young adult. So if you're sitting here, right, I would assume almost about 80% of you would be a young adult, right? And from 40, 45 till about 65 is the actual middle age. Yeah. Because this is where your body is now, all the extra energy is kind of settled down, but you still have the energy. Your mind is at its best, right? Your brain is at its best, and you're actually in the prime of your life. Between 40 and 65 to 70 is the prime of your life. I hope you understand that. This is your actual middle age. And old age is after 60, 65, 70. That is when your body starts slowing down, right? Your muscles should start, kind of losing the tenacity. It should start, your maybe small, aches and pains should come. But what is really happening is this, right? Unfortunately, by the time we are in the early 30s, we start talking about saying, what, I'm feeling old. By the time, we are 40, a lot of people say, oh, you know what, I'm already, there, middle age, and, we are old, we are thinking about retirement. How do we do that? And things like that. And the reason is not anything else. I want to tell you this, right? I want you to think, how do you define it? God willing, you're going to be there till about 80 or 90. You're going to see that. The last 15 years of your life, are you going to be independent, lively, be a joy for people around you, or are you going to have machines around you, gobbling in medicines and be a burden for people around you? Based on that answer, right, you would make a decision to say, I want to practice all these things so that for the rest of my life, especially the last 15, 20 years of my life, I'm going to really lead a healthy life, right? If you believe that, the last 15 years of your life is where you really want to be yourself and independent and be a proud, old person, type of 1, right? You're willing to make changes, type of 1 right now on the chat, okay? The first, immediately when we think, oh, I'll get healthy, you know what we do? we run, right? And there's this friend of mine who came and said yesterday, you know what, Iniyan, I burned 2,000 calories yesterday. I'm like, 2,000 calories? How? And he sent me this picture. A burnt pizza, right? Because that's the only way most of us can burn 2,000 calories, right? See, the most common decision after a session like this is, okay, I'm going to cook. How many of you have a Swiggy or an, what is this, Zomato app on your, mobile? If you have it, just check, can you send me the number, the value of your last order, the most recent order? Can you just quickly check and send me the value of that order, right? On the chat. Don't worry, I'm not making any judgments here. Nobody's making judgments. Just type a number, right? You don't worry about it. Don't worry. All of us are guilty. The people who are not messaging are having higher numbers. So don't worry about it, right? Just type your number, right? What is the highest number that was there, there? Now, I want to close with this, right? This is a very important point. I want you to know this, right? When you decide to cook, I want you to understand that is a factor that has one of the highest, effectiveness, impact on you. It has a 21x times impact on your health. Why? Because every single day you're cooking 3 times, 7 days a week. The way you cook, the method you cook, everything else makes a difference. If you use a pressure cooker, a microwave, or a cast iron, or an aluminum cookware, or you did a non-stick cookware, can you type a 1 quickly, right? You used any of them, at your home, can you quickly say yes? I'm going to talk about 3 things which I've just highlighted there. There are multiple factors. I can keep talking about it. This is one of my most favorite areas, but I can talk about it for the rest of the day. But I'm going to talk to the top 3 factors when it comes to heart health, right? The first one is leaching. A lot of times we think that, hey, it is good, but what happens is, I was talking about inflammation, remember? Inflammation is a place where your cell membranes is inflamed, and nutrition doesn't get in easily. So nutrition entering your cells and retention is important. So if your cooking methods are killing your nutrition, it is a big negative. If there are material like, let's say, cast iron, and it leaches, or aluminum leaches into your food and it enters your food item, that is leaching, because your cells after processing should be able to flush out the unwanted stuff, and additional elemental material going in is another toxin adding to your body, right? Oil usage should be minimal, especially when it comes to health, right? And the heating methods, right? I mean, because if you're most of the good cooking vessels out there cook fast, which means your oil goes to the smoking point extremely fast, and that's a bad thing, right? So you want to make sure that these 3 things are extremely, important and taken care in the cooking method that you're talking about, right? And see, there are surgical grade steel, vessels out there. I mean, roughly about maybe about ₹1,00,000, in the market, maybe. But you know what? You want to make sure that, hey, one-time investment, just go ahead and make it. If you get a better deal, you should find it, right? But all I'm saying is, there are options in the market. Your mobile phone is probably costlier than that, and you're going to anyway change it in the next 3 to 4 years. How about investing one for your lifetime? That is how I used to be. I want you to know that I'm not, I'm not a very big gym goer and things like that. And I want to know that this is how I look right now, right? See, heart attack might be common, but I want you to know that it's not, inevitable. Don't rush into things. Take small steps. Build consistency. Build habits, right? And we do a lot of things to build habits, and your coach will help you take small steps forward. Set small goals. There's a lot of data out there in the market, right? WhatsApp, Google, and everything else. But you want specific information, and that's where a guided program will help you with your coach, right? And so, inspiration. I know some of you are like saying, Iniyan, that's a great session. I really love this session. I love listening to Sumati and everything else. Inspiration not acted upon is inspiration lost. I want you to make a decision between these 2 things today, now. There is a step challenge. Your coach will send you a link right now if you want, and you can start that, register for the step challenge, right? Or talk to your coach and say, I want a full, complete wellness profiling done for you. Take one of these steps forward. It doesn't cost you a bomb. In fact, wellness profiling, your coach might be kind enough to do a, complete free of it. Your step challenge will be lesser than your today's afternoon meal. I can, do that. But I want to tell this. take the first step today. It was great talking to you. Back to my host.